Do we see people coming in?
Yes, I think people will be starting to come in now. So I guess we can get started whenever you're ready, Tabitha.
Sure. Hi, everyone, and welcome. Thanks for joining us for this info session about the Clean Agri-Tech Accelerator, or CATA for short. My name is Tabitha, Director of Strategic Communications at Bioenterprise Canada, and this is my colleague Liza, Senior Program Manager leading the CATA program. Let's take a look at the agenda for today. I'll start by giving you a brief overview and introduction about Bioenterprise, and then Liza will run you through the CATA program details. I would like to mention that if you need closed captioning, please enable that now. You should be able to turn that feature on in your Zoom settings. When I pass it over to Liza, she'll walk you through the CATA program objectives, eligibility and requirements, and how to apply. And if you do have any questions that come up during the session, please feel free to type these into the Q&A section of your screen at any time. When Liza is finished walking you through the program, we'll answer your questions during the Q&A period at the end. So before we dive into CATA, I will give you a brief intro to Bioenterprise Canada. So Bioenterprise Canada is Canada's food and agri-tech engine, the leading national agri-tech and food tech accelerator. The engine is an alliance of like-minded collaborative organizations and individuals all working together to support entrepreneurs and businesses across the country in moving new innovations from concept to market. Helping companies navigate commercialization is at the core of what we do. So, taking a technology, a product, or a service and helping founders build the right strategy, connect with the right people, and find resources to help move forward successfully. Through the engine, we provide industry-specific knowledge and expertise, as well as mentorship and coaching, and critical connections. Engine membership gives innovators access to government funding programs, as well as international trade opportunities and global partnerships. So, in short, we build capacity in the ecosystem while helping entrepreneurs directly with commercialization support. On the next slide, I'll share a little bit more about how we approach this work. So really, our approach is about connection and momentum. We bring people and organizations together across the Canadian agri-tech and food tech industries to strengthen collaboration and open new doors to new opportunities. And by helping companies commercialize and adopt new innovations and technologies, we contribute to building capacity across the sector as a whole. So ultimately, our role is to make the commercialization journey smoother for entrepreneurs, supporting them to scale their businesses faster. Before I pass it over to Liza, I do want to quickly acknowledge the people on the Bioenterprise Canada team who support our programs and the engine. Our strength really lies in our people and our network. We have a dedicated programs team managing operations and more than 25 innovation advisors located all across Canada. These advisors bring deep industry-specific expertise and they work directly with founders to help move their innovations into the market. We're also supported by advisory committees who share their insights to both guide our organization and the companies like yours that we serve. And finally, we have a broad partner network of organizations and experts across the country that provide sector-specific services designed to accelerate growth for Canadian food and agri-tech businesses. So if you have a specific need, we can quickly connect you with a team member, a mentor, an advisor, or a partner who can help you. So I hope this gives you a sense of who we are and the people behind the programs like CATA. And with that foundation in mind, I will now hand it over to Liza to walk you through the details of the Clean Agri-Tech Accelerator program.
Wonderful. Thanks, Tabitha. Hi, everyone. My name is Liza Bates. As Tabitha mentioned earlier, I am helping to deliver the Clean Agri-Tech Accelerator program, which I will refer to as CATA from now on. And I'm doing this alongside my colleagues, Hussein Saimwala, Program Coordinator, and Alexis Aram, Director of Programs, who will be overseeing this program. So without further ado, I will jump into all the program details. So the CATA program is designed to support Canadian agri-food and agri-tech businesses who have the most innovative clean technologies and are ready to lead validation and demonstration projects to advance those technologies. This program is funded by the Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada or AAFC under the Agriculture Clean Technology ACT program, a research and innovation stream accelerator. So listed here are the main objectives of this initiative. As you can see, supporting validation, demonstration, and advancement of innovative clean tech is a key focus. However, this program is also driven by the objective of enhancing environmental sustainability across Canada's agriculture sector. Specifically, the program is looking to reduce producers and processors' direct greenhouse gas emissions through the awarded projects. Another key objective is to amplify a national knowledge technology transfer KTT strategy. This is because we want to ensure these innovations are widely shared with producers, processors, and industry stakeholders. And then the last objective here is to create a future that's more productive, more sustainable, and more competitive for all Canadians. So what defines innovative clean technology in this instance? For the CATA program, innovative clean tech needs to be a GHG reducing technology that specifically helps to improve the environmental sustainability of a project partner's operations. It must be pre-commercialization at a technology readiness level of 6 to 8, with the goal of advancing towards TRL 7 to 9. This means that technologies currently available on the market are not eligible for funding through CATA. And I would recommend for more detailed descriptions of the technology readiness levels to refer to our program guide, and we have a link there to a TRL assessment tool that may be helpful. And then the technologies supported through CATA need to align with one or more of the key priority areas listed here. That includes technologies that reduce methane emissions, low carbon energy, fuel systems, emissions quantifications, reducing emissions from fertilizer uses specifically, and then agriculture waste reduction or reuse. So who's eligible for CATA? Businesses that meet the following eligibility criteria and have an eligible project and an eligible project partner will be considered for CATA funding. First and foremost, for this program, applicants need to be incorporated and located in Canada. They can be either a for-profit or not-for-profit SME, but they must be able to advance their technology through the project. In alignment with what I mentioned earlier, the applicant must show that their innovation will result in a direct reduction of greenhouse gas emissions and other positive environmental benefits within the project partner's operations. And then, as I said on the last slide, there are some specific parameters that clean technology must fall within, and that being they are at a TRL 6 to 8, looking to advance towards a TRL 7 to 9. So beyond those criteria, applicants do need to be operating in the agri-food and agri-technology sectors. They need to procure 50% of the eligible project costs, as this is a 50-50 cost share program. And they also need to complete a screening LCA. I'll go into further details regarding those last few points in the next few slides. But lastly here, the applicant must be able to demonstrate that they are generating between 200,000 and 5 million in annual revenues in order to be eligible for this program. Okay, so here's a breakdown of the categories that fall under the agri-food and agri-technology sector's umbrella. They're listed here, but for more information, you can refer to page 5 of our program guide. And I'll just move on to the next slide here. As I said, this is a 50-50 cost share program, which means that the applicant can ask for 50% of their total eligible project costs up to 200,000. So since the non-repayable contributions are covering half the project budget, the applicant needs to show that they have the sources of capital to deliver on the second half of the project activities that won't be covered through CATA funding. So as I said, the maximum funding per project is 200,000 on a project with eligible project costs totaling 400,000. But we do have a minimum as well. So it's listed here that the minimum is $100,000 on a project with $200,000 in eligible project costs. And then the Screening Lifecycle Assessment, or LCA for short, as I mentioned earlier, is a requirement of the applicant to complete during the project timeline. The Screening LCA is designed to estimate the environmental impacts of the clean technology on the project partner's operations, as well as across its life cycle. So throughout the screening LCA, you will produce a short report around 3 to 4 pages using a cradle to grave model. The items in the report are listed here on screen, and these services will be provided by 5Redo. 5Redo is a Canadian sustainability and circular economy consulting firm, and the associated costs with the screening LCA are eligible to be covered through the awarded project funding. Approximately around 6,000 in eligible project costs should be budgeted towards this activity, and LCA costs are not to exceed 5% of the total eligible project budget. But more information on the screening LCA is available in our program guide and will also be provided directly to successful recipients upon being awarded. Okay, so as CATA is a partnership style program, the applicant must partner with an eligible project partner. And I'm sure you're wondering what makes a project partner eligible. So, similar to an applicant, the partner needs to be incorporated and located in Canada. They need to be operating in the agri-food and agri-tech sectors, and they need to be either a for-profit enterprise or not-for-profit corporation. But the key component here that I want to highlight is that the project partner needs to be able to provide an operational environment for the applicant to demonstrate and validate their innovative technology. Through the project, the technology should help to reduce the environmental impact on the project partner's operations. So project partners need to be able to complete all of the activities on time, but there also needs to be a project partner agreement in place that they agree to that is signed by both parties, so both the applicant and the project partner. And I'll outline exactly the requirements for this agreement towards the end of the presentation. But for now, I also want to mention that the project partner must be a separate organization from the applicant. Lastly, here, the partner must be able to report on project performance and outcomes where applicable or where required. For instance, improved efficiencies and reduced greenhouse gas emissions within their operations. So the next couple of slides, I will go over what makes a project eligible. Listed here are the main criteria for an eligible project. So of course, projects must respond to the objectives of the CATA program, as well as demonstrate the impact that the project will have on advancing the applicant's technology. The project must also be able to maximize environmental outcomes and deliver positive benefits to the agriculture sector in Canada, some of which include IP generation, job creation, TRL advancement, and the development of knowledge transfer and technology products and/or events. Eligible projects will also have activities that are auditable, carried out in Canada, and achievable within the program timeframe. So should a proposed project meet this criteria, then it's considered eligible, and we'd love for you to apply. Okay, so here's a breakdown of the eligible project costs, and a few things I want to highlight is just that the eligible costs must be connected to the project, clearly showing that they're required to carry out the project and are incremental to doing business. There is a time frame that the costs must fall within, which I will explain in the next slide, and then ultimately Bioenterprise will need to approve of the costs. On the right here, we've outlined a few examples of some cost categories, and I just want to note that some cost categories have a cost cap. For instance, internal employee labor here and knowledge and technology transfer costs do have cost caps. So we'd recommend taking a look at Appendix B, specifically in the program guide. There's a detailed list of what's eligible and ineligible and those limits associated with certain expense types. All right, so here are some key program timeline details. So projects can be up to 18 months starting from July 15th, 2026, which is today, and ending no later than January 14th, 2028. So although award notifications won't go out until later, you're able to backdate expenses to July 15th, 2026. All project activities should also take place in Canada unless strong justification is provided and also approved by Bioenterprise. Okay, so we provided this timeline here for you guys so you can make note of a few key dates on your end. We're currently accepting letters of intent, and the LOI submissions are due August 19th. From there, shortlisted LOIs will be invited to provide a full application, and we'll have until September 24th to submit those. And then the award and decline notifications will go out October 30th. Switching gears now to the application process, so how to apply. This is a two-phased application process, and I will go over everything you need to know and submit in these next few slides. The first phase here being the letter of intent submission or LOI. To submit an LOI, you need to complete the LOI workbook, the project partner agreement, and compile any optional supporting documents that are relevant towards the project, and then submitting those through the LOI intake form. So at the bottom here, the tools and templates section on our CATA program webpage that's referenced has the letter of intent workbook, as well as the link to the letter of intent intake form. So clicking that will take you to a new window that hosts the LOI intake form. It has the deadline, so days remaining until it's due. And if you select apply now, you can start your LOI intake form. And I just want to note that this is a save your progress as you go form, so you can start working on it now, compile all your documents, prepare your workbook, and then submit it when you're officially ready. Here's a screenshot of what the LOI workbook looks like. It's in the format of a Word document. There are gray boxes here that you can use to include the responses, and we just want to make note of the word limits on the left-hand side to help guide the length of your answers. And then, as promised, here are some more details on the project partner agreement that I mentioned earlier. There's no formal template for this agreement, but at minimum, it should include eligible activities, roles and responsibilities, deliverables, and timelines. An estimated cost breakdown should be included, showing each party's contributions towards the project, and then the agreement needs to be signed by both parties. So as part of the LOI, it's the applicant's responsibility to develop and submit this project partner agreement as part of their submission, and it's helpful to demonstrate the greenhouse gas reduction focus and plans for the technology advancement. All right, so when you have your LOI workbook ready and your project partner agreement ready, you can upload these to the LOI intake form. That's what this screenshot is showing here. There's an area to upload both of those as well as supporting documentation if available. And then you're able to submit on that same platform. So once the LOI submission deadline is closed, the LOIs will be reviewed by an external review committee to select the shortlisted LOI applicants that will be invited to submit a full application. So this is phase 2 of the process. This is an invite-only full application, and only successful LOI applicants will be provided with the full application guide that has instructions, guidance, and templates on how to prepare and submit the full application. The non-shortlisted LOIs will also be notified at this time of the status of their LOI. So here I have listed what's included in the full application submission. So as you can see, there's a full application workbook that includes a project milestone plan in it, as well as a budget workbook and financial documents that are required to include. So all of those will be uploaded and submitted through the full application intake form. Similar to the LOI intake form, it's a save your progress as you go situation. Okay, so here is a little screenshot of the milestone plan that's required as part of the full application. As you can see here, it's in a table format, and you're able to include as many activities as needed for the project. We ask that you please adhere to the eligible start and end dates in these columns in order for the project to remain within the eligible timeframe. And then in the remaining columns, you can include the activity description and outcomes that are associated with each activity. Okay, and here is the budget workbook. Similarly, there's a spot for activity names, and that is because we'd like for you to include the same activities in your milestone plan in your workbook for the budget. And then below that, you can include a cost breakdown of the activity using different line items. And each line item description should be a little bit detailed so we can fully understand what the expense entails. The activity cost column here, you can include the full cost. We ask that you select an activity type, and then the applicant and Bioenterprise contributions will automatically populate to 50% of the activity costs. Just noting here that you can the split can be modified as required to ensure that the funding does not exceed 200,000. All right, so the last the last few required documents for the full application submission are the financial appendices. In order to be considered for the CATA funding, applicants must attach 2 years of financial statements reviewed and reported on by an independent external accountant with a minimum notice to read a report to the most recently completed year end. So financial statements in this case are a balance sheet, profit and loss statement, and cash flow statement. The applicant must also provide internally prepared statements for the current fiscal year to date of the LOI submission. So for example, if the start of your fiscal year for your business is January 1st, 2026, then the internally prepared statements will be from January 1st to the date of the LOI submission. Lastly, here, the applicant must provide evidence of matching funding available. This can be in the form of an operating line of credit or a letter of comfort from the bank or an accounting firm. And so all of those financial documents will be uploaded and submitted along with your full application submission. And that kind of concludes the details on the full application specifically. All those the full application workbook, budget workbook, and financial appendices will all be uploaded through the full application intake form and reviewed by an external full application review committee. Okay, so I hope that the presentation portion of today's call was informative. It was a lot of information, and we appreciate your time listening. We'll just move on now to the Q&A portion, and Tabitha will get into the first question.
Sure, great, Liza. Thank you for that. The first questions are sort of related, so I'm going to just see if I can summarize this succinctly. They have to do with the $200,000 to $5 million eligibility requirement, the revenue portion. So, do pre-revenue startups qualify for this? And would you consider, or would the program consider companies that fall outside of that $200,000 to $5 million range?
Yeah, great question. So for the pre-revenue startups, unfortunately, no, pre-revenue organizations are not eligible for the CATA program. And then in terms of your second question with the revenue requirement of 200,000 to 5 million, applicants slightly outside of these criteria may be eligible to apply, but we recommend emailing us at submissions@bioenterprise.ca so we can understand better where you're at and provide a more concrete answer there. The revenues are in place for the program for a reason, so we do try to adhere to that eligibility criteria. Yeah.
And another follow-up question to that same sort of line of questioning. If a technology cannot currently be in the market, how would the company be able to show the revenue? I think if you could just clarify that.
If the technology cannot currently be in the market, how to show the revenue? Okay, yes, great question. So your company, for the eligibility for CATA, your company must be generating revenue from other sources. This project is for new technology, so that your company is working on and developing. So unfortunately, if you're not currently generating revenue, you would not be eligible for this program. Since it is a 50/50 cost share contribution program, applicants need to be generating between those revenue thresholds that are mentioned and able to contribute 50% of the eligible project costs, so up to 200,000 in CATA funding. So this matching requirement demonstrates the applicant's financial commitment to the project.
Great. And if anyone else has questions about that, they can get in touch with us after. Does the project partner need to be a Canadian company?
Um, the project partner needs to be a Canadian company. That's a great question. Yes, eligible project partners must be located and incorporated in Canada for this program.
Great. Regarding the required 50% matching contribution, can eligible matching funds include founder salaries, software development, cloud infrastructure, and in-kind technical work, or is the match expected to be primarily cash expenditures?
Hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. Unfortunately, these costs would not be eligible towards the 50% matching contribution. So the total eligible project costs are what we are able to match with 50%. So if there are ineligible costs, that wouldn't be going towards that.
Okay. Back to the partner question. Is it mandatory to have a partner, or could somebody go solo on this project?
That's a good question. So for this program, it is partnership style. So it is mandatory to have a project partner on this. All CATA projects do need to include an eligible project partner that's distinct from the applicant. They can be located and incorporated in Canada. They need to support the demonstration and validation and advancement of the applicant's innovative tech. And then applicants are also required to agree to that project partner agreement. So it can't be the same organization.
Right. This is pretty specific, but I'll let you try to answer it anyway, Liza. We'll see. Our drones are already commercially available, but we're planning a clean tech focused upgrade involving both the hardware and software specifically for ag applications. The upgraded version has not yet been commercialized. Would this project be eligible for the CATA program?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's definitely nuanced there and kind of project specific. So I'd actually ask if you could send that to submissions@bioenterprise.ca. We'll require a bit more information, I think, to give you an appropriate answer.
This is a good question too. Who owns the IP generated out of the project?
The owner of the technology, so the applicant in this case, would retain ownership of any IP generated through the CATA project.
Great. At the LOI or letter of intent stage, how detailed is the project partner agreement expected to be? So should it reflect a fully negotiated project with defined budgets and milestones, or is it a very high level agreement? Is a high level agreement sufficient with details finalized if the project advances to full application?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, I would say to follow what the a project partner agreement minimum requirements are that I listed. So the project partner agreement, it needs to define terms and conditions that are agreed upon between each party, and that would be involved in the successful implementation of this project. So the contributions between each party, the activities, the roles and responsibilities, key deliverables and timelines. Um, in terms of your question, should it reflect fully negotiated project with defined budgets and milestones? Ideally, you have an idea of what those activities are and the contributions are. So I would include all that information that you have into the project partner agreement. And then it does require signature from both the applicant and the project partner, as well as an effective date for when the project will start. Um, and I hope that answers your question. More information on the project partner agreements can be found on page 6 of the program guide. Um, yeah.
I have a question here about interest rate. Could you please explain the interest rate that would apply if the funding is repayable?
Hmm. No interest rate will be attributed to the funding. Um, Here, in this case, it's non-repayable funding.
And what are the repayment and amortization terms associated with the funding?
Um, that's a great question. I I maybe follow up with us by email on that one, um, so I can provide a more concrete answer.
Okay. These two questions might be related. How many projects are expected to be funded this year, and what is the total budget allocated for this program funding?
There is about 4 million in funding to be awarded. The number of projects approved will depend on the size of the project budgets, or the projects and their budgets and the funding asks that are submitted. So the strongest projects will be supported as budgeted, as the budget is available. We will seek to support as many projects as possible with that budget. Um, and so yeah, that's the total funding capacity we have.
Okay. Um, there's a question here. What are the benefits of the required third-party evaluation, which is valued at approximately $6,000 to the applicant? The benefits to the applicant.
The benefits to the applicant required for third-party evaluation. Oh, I believe you're talking about the screening LCA. Um, Assuming that's what you're mentioning, our service provider, 5Redo, for this screening LCA has built a specific framework for us to use through this program, and the outcomes of that LCA are specific to the benefits we're trying to capture and outcomes from this program. So that is why we have that specific provider. And then the benefits to understanding that knowledge and having those estimate environmental metrics is valuable to the applicant or the technology innovator in this case. It's rather than an advanced LCA, it's been designed to prepare recipients for future sustainability reporting initiatives, should they choose to pursue those.
Great. This is a really good question. We have a project that was funded by AAFC through the Clean Technology Research and Innovation stream. Would our past funding in this stream disqualify us, or would it actually maybe improve our chances since we are now ready for demonstration instead of early research?
That's yeah, that's interesting. I think if you could email us so we can learn a bit more about your AFC clean technology funding that you got previously, that way we can determine your eligibility for this one. I think we'll just need a bit more information there.
Great. Next question. What components are most important for judging? Okay, so I'm assuming they mean like the screening of the applications. Are they different? Are they weighted differently in the evaluations for a specific components?
Yeah, so for the letters of intent, they will be evaluated first and foremost based on the fit, the whether the applicant, the eligible project partner, and the project meet the eligibility criteria outlined in the program guide, but how strongly that fit is. The review panels will evaluate the letters of intent according to the criteria found on pages, I believe it's pages 11 to 12 of the program guide. There's a section with assessment criteria. And I would also consider the word limits for the questions. Obviously, where there's the bulk of the longer questions, the more information we're gathering, those tend to be weighed higher than the smaller questions. But yeah, essentially, I would take a look at that assessment criteria in the program guide to help guide you.
Great. And this might tag on to that same question, but as a related scenario, would a startup be considered eligible if its parent company or another company owned by the same founder is generating revenue and providing the financial support needed to commercialize the pre-revenue startup's technology?
Hmm.
That makes sense?
Yeah, I don't think
Okay.
that there's, yeah, I don't know if there's like a hard and fast answer for this because we would probably need a bit more information about the structure of those companies there. So if you could email us at submissions@bioenterprise.ca so we can answer appropriately, I think this would be like a case-by-case situation.
Great. Can you explain, Liza, the stacking rules with other programs?
Yeah, so for the CATA program, government funding cannot be stacked to cover the same eligible project costs funded through CATA. The applicant needs to declare any government funding received within 12 months prior to applying. Since it's a 50-50 matching contribution program, applicants must be generating between the revenue, the 200,000 to 5 million in annual revenues and be able to contribute 50% of the project costs. Um, so, if additional financing is required to support that 50% contribution, we'd be happy to facilitate an introduction to one of our partners, Agriculture Credit Corporation, ACC, to discuss potential bridge financing options. Um, but unfortunately, stacking is ineligible on the same eligible project. And if you have specific questions about your funding situation, for instance, like the question before that mentioned previous AFC funding, I would just reach out to us at submissions at bioenterprise.ca so we can kind of understand that specific situation better.
Okay. This next question is regarding eligible expenses. So is there a cap on equipment purchases?
There is no cap on equipment purchases for this program.
Great. If a company engages a software app developer to assist in bringing the tech to market, are the software or app costs covered as an expense?
Hmm. I think we would need more information on the project here. Instead of just being able to say yes or no, I think we would require more information. So if you could email us with a bit more information, or we could set up a call to learn more, I think we'd be able to give you a better answer.
This is a good question, the next one. If my company does business outside of Canada, are we still eligible?
Um, yes, so long as the applicant and project partner are located and incorporated in Canada. As mentioned in the slides, project activities need to take place in Canada and costs be incurred in Canada. So if those criteria are met, then that would be fine.
Great. This is also a good question. Does the project partner also need to meet the $200,000 to $5 million annual revenue requirement?
No, the eligible project partner doesn't need to meet that annual revenue requirement. On page 5 of the program guide, we outline the exact things that they need to meet. Revenue is not one of them, that's just the applicant.
Another revenue question here. Is the revenue defined as product sale or services rendered, or does it count grants received? Is the distinct project partner, if the distinct project partner exceeds the $5 million threshold, would this be an issue?
Mm.
Those two
Uh,
separate questions, maybe.
Yeah. Well, kind of I'll answer the second one first. Off of the last question was, does the project partner need to have that 200 to 5 million annual revenues? It's not a requirement as per our program guide. So that second question, the answer would be it's not an issue. And then for the first question, do you mind just repeating that one again, Tabitha?
Yeah, is the revenue defined as product sales or service rendered, or does it count grants received? I think they're just looking for the source of that revenue.
I believe it would be sales revenue.
Okay. This is kind of a general question too, but I will see if you have an answer, Liza. What is the arm's length guidelines for project partner?
That's a great question. We don't specify that in our program guide. I would reach out to email us at submissions@bioenterprise.ca so we can provide an answer to that.
This is a good question here. Does the project partner have to make financial contributions, or are they just signing an agreement to validate the project?
Yeah, so they don't need to make a financial contribution to the project, but they can. The only agreement they need to sign is the project partner agreement. As I mentioned in the presentation, that should outline a rough cost estimate for the work being done. And I mentioned the contributions from each party. If the contributions from the project partner is nothing, then it's nothing. So it's the answer is they don't need to, but they can.
Another related question, which is a good one, if project partners commit to funding, will that be considered a financial contribution, or it has to come from the bank? because it can be difficult for self-funded entrepreneurs to show that.
Yeah, that's no, I understand that difficulty there. If you could email us with more information on that, I think we'd be better able to answer your question. Um, it depends on the information you provide.
Can universities participate in the program, Liza?
Great question. I don't have the answer for you about that specifically, but I can take note of it, and we will follow up with you after.
Okay, here is another question. If we have our LCA completed already, do we need to hire 5Redo to review what was done by the Center for Climate Change Management?
Hmm. That is a good question. It is a requirement listed for the applicants. I wonder if having an LCA completed already would make this screening LCA fairly straightforward and inexpensive to complete. Maybe email us that submission so we can get a better understanding of what LCA was already completed on your end and where the technology is at.
Okay. Next question. Can a Canadian paid contractor for the proposed project be a partner?
Paid contractor for the first party to be a partner. Um, an eligible An eligible project would be the validation, demonstration, and advancement of an innovative pre-market technology that's reducing greenhouse gas emissions of the eligible project partner's operations. So, if the paid contractor is not demonstrating the technology and the technology won't show benefits, environmental benefits to their operations, like greenhouse gas reductions, I would say it's ineligible.
Okay. Would a veterinary product developed from waste plant biomass qualify as an agri-food or AgTech project under this program? A veterinary product.
Yeah, I think we would need to know more like what the veterinary product is, and a bit more about the project as a whole, ensuring that the rest of the eligibility criteria are met before giving you a hard and fast answer for this one. So maybe email us at submissions as well. We can discuss this further.
Okay. I've got a tax question here. How does your funding affect SHRED claims? So SHRED being the scientific research and experimental development tax.
It should not affect the SR and E and D claims.
Okay. This next question is a little long, so bear with me as I kind of read through it. I haven't read it yet. I'm reading it live right now. As you know, many of the most innovative technologies, particularly in the food and agri-tech sectors, originate outside of Canada. Why then is there a requirement to partner exclusively within a Canadian company? This limitation may prevent applicants from accessing the most advanced and innovative tech available globally. Requiring applicants to work only with Canadian tech partners could inadvertently discourage the adoption of cutting-edge solutions and reduce the overall impact and competitiveness of funded projects.
Thanks for that question. So the program is delivered through funding from AAFC, which is focused on driving innovation, economic benefits in Canada. So as such, the innovative technologies supported through the program need to be owned by an organization located and incorporated in Canada. So it's very Canada-centric. And that's the one of the objectives is to foster the sustainability, productivity for all Canadians. So I'll just leave it there, but yeah, that's probably the answer.
Yeah. Can there be multiple project partners participating? So I'm assuming they're meaning more than two partners.
Yeah, so I think that if you more than two main partners maybe needs to be assessed on a case-by-case basis, but each project does require one main project partner. So they'll be the ones who will offer their operations to demonstrate and validate the technology and advance it. So as long as you have that, I would lead with the one main project partner. There can be other external project team members contributing to the project that you can list in your project team. Um, But as for project partners, maybe that would be on a case-by-case basis if you had two strong ones. So maybe reach out to us if that's the case. If not, just lead with the main one.
Um, Next question, is capital equipment fully eligible as a project cost?
Yes, yeah. Capital equipment is an eligible project cost.
Here's another partner question, and maybe you've answered this already. I'm not sure, Liza, but should the project be monitored and conducted with a project partner?
I think the answer there is yes. Like it is a partnership program. You do want to have one project partner you're working with. We have a project partner agreement. So I think the answer there is yes.
Okay. Next question. I understand the program requires audited financials. Can the project partners supply their financials for you to support a startup company, essentially a spin-off of one of the project partners?
Yeah, I don't think that would apply based on the criteria for this specific program. So I'm going to say no to that one. We do need the applicant to be able to demonstrate their financial capacity.
Okay. Next question. Are the environmental benefits to be measured, assessed in terms of a single organization adopting the new tech, or will the evaluation consider the effect of technology adoption across the industry? It's a good question.
Yeah, it definitely is a good question. I think we would primarily focus on seeing those benefits related to a single organization adopting the new tech. But if the benefits extend beyond that, I think you're welcome to include those metrics. And I think that could help strengthen the project impact for sure. So I would include both.
Okay. Next, can a project partner be a regional innovation center like Boundless or Communitech?
Yeah, so obviously they would have to align with all of the project partner eligibility criteria. They'd need to be operating those agri-food and agri-tech sectors, and I believe they would only be eligible to do that if they are demonstrating, validating, advancing the technology in their operations, and being able to show those reductions in greenhouse gas emissions and enhancing the environmental sustainability. Of that project partner. So if it's not quite following that criteria, then I would say it would be ineligible.
Great. You already answered a part of this next question, but the second half, I think, is information people might find helpful. How many projects will be awarded in the cohort? And if a project scores high but is not selected, may it be considered for future calls?
Good question. For CATA, we are only targeting one funding round currently. So that is the LOI intake that's open currently, and that is the only funding round.
Okay. A question about matching here, the matching portion. Could you please elaborate on the 50% applicant contribution requirement? Given the funding for successful applicants is expected to be released in October or November, are applicants required to retain their 50% matching contribution in cash until then, or can they begin investing their contribution in the project now and count eligible expenses incurred before the funding is awarded toward their matching contribution?
Okay. Project costs, they cannot be incurred prior to July 15th, so today. But if you would like to start working on your project now, you're more than welcome to. We just can't reimburse projects prior to that date. I hope that answers the question there.
Would projects that are not actual tech products be eligible? For example, development of standards, technical specifications, and guidelines for the ag sector in Canada?
Yeah. I um I think if you could email us or email us at submissions@bioenterprise.ca, so we can learn more about that before saying yes or no here. Um, I think it would depend.
Okay. Next question is, do the projects need a research or demonstration component within them, or is manufacturing equipment acquisition on its own eligible?
They would need to have demonstration, validation, testing, piloting, advancement component in the eligible project partners facilities. So manufacturing equipment acquisition on its own would not be eligible.
Okay. This is a little bit specific here. For projects involving AI and computer vision, what distinguishes an outstanding application from an average one? Is it the technical innovation, the strength of the validation partner, the environmental impact methodology, or the commercialization plan?
Um, Yeah, that's a great question. AI and computer vision is very specific. I would say that just across the board, all uh, LOIs, all full applications will be reviewed by our external review panels and really according to the criteria on pages 11 to 12 of the program guide. So I would really take a look at that and develop your application to align with that criteria as best as you can.
Okay. Um, just checking the remaining questions here, Liza.
Hmm.
I'm not sure if this is a question. I'm going to read it like a question though, and we'll see. Just want to add more clarity to a previously asked question. CATA funding is non-repayable. The bridge loan program offered by ACC as a financing partner for for Bioenterprise can count towards the 50% applicant contribution requirement. Is that true?
Yeah, so CATA funding is non-repayable. And as mentioned earlier, our partner ACC, we can discuss some bridge loan financing with them to help support companies that need more support with the 50% contribution requirement. So please do email us about that. We'd be happy to make a connection with ACC and learn more about where you are at from a financial standpoint.
Okay, here's a good question. If the applicant has annual revenues over 5 million, but the tech that they're advancing is a completely new vertical for the company and everything else about the applicant and the tech is eligible, is there room for flexibility?
Um, Please email us about that. I think it depends, and we'd love to learn more specifically about your situation and about this technology you mentioned and the project as a whole, your idea, and we'd be able to give you a more appropriate answer then.
I see only one remaining question in here. Agriculture is seasonal. The season is almost finished. Can the project be funded for the next 18 months from next year?
Hmm. Um, yeah, I think what they're saying there is next year, 18 months from July, could that project timeline be eligible? And unfortunately, no. For this program, the project eligibility requires it to fall within the time frame, which is July 15th, 2026 to January 14th, 2028. So if your project isn't quite aligning with that, it wouldn't be eligible, but we hope that if your project does fall within that time frame, that you're able to submit an application and get some funding.
Great. It looks like, I think we may have just received a couple more questions. I'm not 100. Oh, yes, there's another question here. If a revenue generating farm is the applicant, could a pre-revenue tech company be the partner demonstrating benefits to the applicant's business? Do you want me to read that again?
No, I think I understand that one. So
Okay.
it's saying, can you switch the roles? Can the partner be the tech innovator and can the applicant be the revenue generating farm? Unfortunately, the answer is no to that. Our structure is the other way around. We will be entering into agreement with the tech innovator and seeing the TRL advancement of their technology. So unfortunately, the answer is no to that one. But if it does work the other way around, then that could be eligible.
This is also a helpful question as a follow-up to that previous dating question. When is the latest start date for projects?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's no defined latest start date as long as your team has the capacity to complete the project successfully and spend all of the awarded funding or the funding ask by January 14th, 2028. So the timeline does need to be reasonable and we need to know that it's achievable. But if the project is starting later and you're still able to finish it by January 14th, 2028, then that would be fine.
Okay, I think that's the last question we have, Liza.
Okay, wonderful. Well, it's great to see all those questions come in, and I think that wraps up our Q&A and the CATA information session today. So thank you everyone again for attending. We will send a recording of the information session within the week, and if you would like the French version of the slides as well as the FAQ document, we'll be posting that to our webpage under the tools and templates section. So thank you again for attending, and have a great rest of your day, everyone.